Yeah, buddy. How was that first show? Man, I'm pissed at myself for missing that.
No, it's okay. It was really fun. Just hearing. I mean, it lasted. It was over 2 hours. It was supposed to be a 15-minute meet. Of course, yeah. Anders came in. Justin called Anders. He was in his car, so Anders was driving, and his girlfriend turned on the phone. So he was doing part of the interview in his car. They dropped his girlfriend off, and he sat for an hour and a half in her parking lot to the rest of the interview there.
Oh my gosh, the singer. That's great, man.
Yeah, so Anders was great. So apparently he sang in Lion's Share, and at Lion's Share toured with Saxon back in like the early 2000s a couple times. And so we were pushing, we thought it'd be great to get a Saxon and Sorcerer tour, do a show together. I think they're gonna be playing at the same show in Sweden in like July or something. So I'm like, that'll be awesome. But it was funny, man. They were just sharing stories, and it was just really cool. Anders had a good time. He's like, you guys are really cool. Thanks for doing this, setting it up. I'm like, it was my pleasure. I was happy I felt like I'm hosting a summit.
That's about it. I'm ready for it to go.
Sure.
Come and go.
Hey there, Doug. How are you?
Yo, can you hear me okay?
Can, yeah. I apologize. Right. I thought I had sent you that link before, and I apologize if I hadn't. I thought I had.
No worries.
Oh, I'm glad you came.
Happy to be here.
Glad to have you
Thanks
back,
for inviting me again.
Oh, our pleasure. Your connection sounds a bit spotty, just letting you know. The audio is a bit spotty, but
I'm on a new laptop, and I'm this one is kind of untested for me, so I'm hoping that it works okay.
Yeah. So. If not, you got a great way of putting in, new vocal effects for your show. That'd be awesome. Yeah. We have some sickness in our party today, which is why we're not all of us are here.
Oh, shucks.
So, but at least we can do the three of us. That we'll have a good time anyway.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we had a few other people. I know Dreadbull is feeling sick, and Wildcard. I don't know if you met Vic. I don't think he was here last time. Yeah. Yeah, he's just taking some time away from social media. So, but yeah, I got my list of things and good stuff we can talk about.
I am ready.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll do our intro, and feel free to chime in with us and
okay.
All those good things, like you know the drill. You've been here before.
I think I remember.
Yeah. Well, we use your outro every show. I don't know if you've ever watched any more episodes, because I think it was like one of the best ones, like you said, the best podcast you've never heard before. I'm like, that is brilliant.
There you go.
So it bookends, it comes at the end of every show.
There you go. I love it.
So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I want to thank you too. Like your episode was the first episode that we've gotten over 1,000 views on.
Nice.
So I was like, wow, this is amazing.
We bring all the milkshades to the yard.
That's right. That's right.
Got a little bit of this helping us out today too. So.
Nice. Yeah, I've got some new candies, some new goodies myself. Some, yes. These are potent. Yeah. I took some of these little sativas, and 9 hours. 9 hours. I was like, holy crap, this is way too strong, man. You know. Do you just smoke, or do you do edibles as well?
I have tried edibles, and edibles help when I'm like on a plane or I need to just completely zone, but I tend to like to dial in the terpenes and the actual flower to like what I particularly enjoy. And so I feel like I have a little bit more control over it. And plus I like, my wife prefers me smoking this than cigars.
Sure.
So
do you like cigars? Do you smoke cigars?
Occasionally. And she'll occasionally smoke a cigar with me.
Nice.
But maybe, half a dozen a year.
Sure.
Where I smoke cannabis, not every day, but relatively often.
Good. We can all cut all this out, so don't worry. We're not gonna Not gonna.
I've smoked on some of my reactions now, so the cat's
Oh,
kind of out of the.
It's out of the bag.
The cat's kind of out of the
The
bag.
cannabis is out of the bag. Okay. I feel bad. Too bad you didn't enjoy King Diamond more, but that's okay. It's an acquired taste. I get it.
I will.
I get
Maybe I'll give it another shot. People keep asking me to give Megadeth another shot. So.
Yeah. You were the first person when you did Holy Wars. Everyone else is like talking about the time changes and the complexity of the song. And you're like, they're staying in the same key. It's rather boring. I'm like, oh, Doug, no, you're missing the point. I was like, oh, no, come on, man. Don't you hear it? Don't you hear it?
Don't you hear it? Don't you hear it the same way I do? That's what I was
just laughing, but it was great because you were right. It's in that same limited range, but as a but it's a really complex song, all the time changes and all those things.
I need to give it another shot for sure. I didn't mean to come off that heavy, but like if a reactor doesn't like oversell that this is the greatest thing I've ever heard since yesterday on my last episode, if a reactor is not doing that, I think it comes off as holy crap, they hated it. That's not the case either.
No, I didn't get that as much as you're pointing out things that most of us aren't hearing because we're listening to the things that we are used to and hearing and the complexity of the melodies, but not in the same key. Just like you're pointing out, oh yeah, E minor, it's gotta be an Iron Maiden song. This is where they live, and that's great. That's cool. But as a fan, it was you were focused on the syllable in focusing on that. And I was like, okay, but I'm glad you're going to give it a try. Just as a person who enjoys music, I hope the next viewing or listening is a little better for you.
For sure.
So, all right, I guess we better get rolling into this year interview.
Hey everybody, this is Justin from Sorcerer.
And Christian.
And you guys are listening to and watching
Heavy Metal Horror.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, I'm Chop Top, and this was a heavy year.
Go ahead.
And this is the Daily Doug Helvering here, and I am enjoying myself on the Heavy Metal Horror Podcast.
That's right. And you were watching and listening to Heavy Metal. Kitties, on a very special episode of Heavy Metal Horror, we are doing a year in review. We're just going to talk about all the things that we've listened to and watched and eaten and drunk and smoked in the last year or so, and just kind of have a freewheeling discussion. We've had a pretty monumental year, I would say, the year of the lockdown, but it's kind of been all kinds of wonderful as well. And so thanks, Doug, for coming back, man. We really appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. On the Skype or the Zoom here, it says Megan Helvering. I'm on my wife's computer.
You could change that.
I just realized I'm on her chat, but my name is Doug, and I am pleased to be here.
I'm going to change it for you.
All right.
How's that?
That was magical. That was.
I am Montag, master of illusion.
Yes. Well, you bring credibility wherever you go, my friend.
There we go. That's about all I'm bringing, but I'll bring it. That's the nicest thing someone said. Usually it's, other kinds of words. You son of a bitch.
You changed my name. I didn't even have to do it. That was wonderful.
Well, let's talk about some of the great things that we have seen this year. Maybe we'll talk about some of the movies that we've seen. Then we'll talk about TV shows and stuff like that. So Doug, have you seen any good movies this year?
Movies. Wow. One of the I've been really impressed with the new musical movies. I mean, that stuff appeals to me. So we've seen, I mean, the Hamilton movie, the pro shot that they did that Disney Plus released is the way that I was like, why can't all movie musicals just be the pro shot of the show? Because that was breathtaking to watch, you know. But then they came out, I mean, Lin-Manuel did In the Heights, and it was a wonderful, we are planning to see the new version of West Side Story that is out. And I have heard very good things from my friends about that. So, you know, whenever, you know, Hollywood tries to take on these, you know, big stories that use music as the main vehicle for the storytelling, it's always fascinating to me to see how, you know, the cinematographers and the directors all try to incorporate it and get it right, because it's not easy to take like a 2.5-hour Broadway show and condense it down into like a smaller movie package. It's a different medium. So, but I've very much enjoyed that. Now I'm trying to think of, I think it was Soul, the movie Soul, the animated thing on Disney Plus with the music with John Baptiste and the jazz
wonderful,
stuff.
right?
Loved that movie. So we haven't really ventured out to the movie theater too much yet, but so most of the stuff we've seen has been via streaming. But those are some of the movies that that come to mind.
Yeah,
for me.
I appreciate the streaming as well. And the Hamilton, I didn't want to see it. I'm like, but my wife was insistent, and then
what did that do? Did you blow your socks off? Come on now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that musical. I'm not much of a musical kind of person, as far as like musical theater.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, but I was blown away by the first time I heard actually the first song was on John Krasinski's show, A Little Good News. I think he was doing on YouTube every week, like Good News or This Week or something. And it was like the first or second episode where a little girl wrote and said how much she loved Hamilton, and then Lin-Manuel Miranda and the rest of the cast of Hamilton chimed in on the Zoom call and all sang for her. And I just sobbed because it was such a sweet moment of giving to this girl. And I thought, oh my God. And I thought I was just enamored with the song, and it was all a cappella.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, the voices are just gorgeous. And so I go, okay, I'll watch this. And I was pulled in. I'm like, oh, I've seen it, I think 3 or 4 times now. And after you see the first time, you're just, you're blown away. And now you can watch it again and see the movement in the theater floor that spins. And
it's amazing.
It's a gorgeous production. It was like the first time, or like when I saw Ka, which was the Cirque du Soleil production, which I normally don't like the Cirque du Soleil with all the clowns, but this was like an Asian inspired martial arts kind of thing, but it was just mesmerizing. So yeah, I loved Hamilton. I think is brilliant. I mean, it was so good.
I think it's Shakespearean good. The alliteration, the rhyme, the poetry, the storytelling is as good as like most humans have ever done. It's really fantastic. And the thing that's so, from a composer point of view, the thing that is so that just drove me over the edge is the ensemble, the way that different characters interact within one scene, and the dialogue is musically set, and every single syllable moves the story forward. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And it's just an unbelievable feat of storytelling and of language. It's
rhyme and meter. It was beyond anything I expected. And the 3 sisters I thought had some of the most beautiful harmonies together. It's like it was just enough to make you weep. It was so pretty, And
I'm excited that I got you guys talking about musical theater on the last episode.
This will be the last show. This episode will be airing on the 31st. So
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Thank you. Yes, everyone. I think the last musical that I'd actually seen and enjoyed was Camelot. I was really big into King Arthur when I was a teenager, and so I watched it, but it's just not been something that I really was into. I mean, I've seen the movies growing up, like Grease and other the kind of musical movies, but it's not something I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
But this was something so magnificent that it completely
You'd
unhinged
like
me.
Sondheim.
Okay.
You'd like Sondheim. Give like Into the Woods or Sunday in the Park with George
All
a
right.
try.
I will.
Just great shows. Great shows.
Yeah, I like that. So anyone out there, listen.
Sondheim is the link between like classic American musical theater and the new age of musical theater, because
Okay.
Sondheim wrote the lyrics to West Side Story with Leonard Bernstein.
Okay.
And he also studied as a teenager with Oscar Hammerstein himself. Oscar Hammerstein was like a second dad to Stephen Sondheim and mentored him as a kid. And then Sondheim mentored not only Lin-Manuel Miranda, but Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent and Tick, Tick, Boom, and many others. So he's a direct conduit and wrote reinvented American musical theater in the 70s, because
Nice.
it was kind of nobody knew what was happening in the early 70s. And so if you want to give musical theater another shot and you don't want to listen to
Cats.
show tunes,
Yeah. Right. I like the musical, the video version there, because there's a cat who I thought was pretty hot. Like, I don't know who she is, but okay, she's pretty hot. The music could just go away. I'm not talking about the new version with the
I
CG
have
cats.
not watched that. I'm not a huge Lloyd Webber fan.
No, I like his
That's not-
grills, the Weber grills. I enjoy those, for when I cook out, but I don't want to see his musicals.
Different spelling.
I know. I'm not that high,
Okay. So
I will definitely check that out. And I did want to say, as you mentioned Rent, not to walk over you, I have a connection with Rent.
Oh yeah.
Yes, my very first movie that I made in 2014, Monster of Party Beach, the character of Miss Brown is played by Melissa Javorik, who actually was starring in Rent at the time on Broadway.
Cool.
And so she traded up to be in my movie. So, that's what I like to think. Anyway. So there you go, kids. Check out Monster Party Beach. That's awesome. I will check out some Sondheim, because I will give it a chance.
Good stuff.
And I'd love, like,
Into the Woods would be a great movie to watch over the holidays with your family. It's like an adult take on the classic fairy tales.
Okay.
It's wonderful. The movie version is quite good.
Excellent. I would definitely. I mean, I'm glad I have this, being recorded, so I will take notes, copious notes afterwards, and start looking these up.
There you go.
Excellent. Chop Top. Any movies for you this year that you've seen?
Yeah. I of course heavy metal horror, and I mostly what I watch is horror. But Conjuring 3, that was pretty good. Gosh, I actually like the what was it? Just released Venom, Let There Be Carnage. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
That was a lot of fun. Rented that off a stream, and pretty funny too. Trying to think anything else. Man, so many movies. Sometimes I don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of movies. So I really like the Netflix series. What was it called, Mark? Or Montag? The one about the priest and
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Yeah, that's on my list. Yeah. Have you seen that, Doug?
I have not seen that.
Oh,
I think my wife may have.
Yeah, that's really good.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah, that is, you savor that one.
I need to stop watching the British Bake Off and
Oh, that's great
go
too.
that's great too.
You get the Paul Hollywood handshake, right?
Yeah, well, whenever I get hungry, I'm like, well, that's half of my sweets, because I just get it throughout. Then I don't have to eat.
Did you see the special with the cast of the Dairy Girls? Have you seen that show, The
No.
Dairy Girls, on Netflix? It's about girls who live in North Ireland.
Right.
Well, they do a holiday baking show, a special on the Great British Bake Off.
Put that on the list.
It's wonderful because those girls are delightful. I mean,
I should do a reaction to that.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Soggy bottoms.
Yes, exactly. I think one of my favorite things, you had mentioned Disney a couple times. Have you seen Cruella?
I didn't watch the new one, but I do have Disney, so it
well worth the watch. It is
Awesome.
delicious. And when we have the two main actresses on at the same time, they are mesmerizing to watch. They just chew the scenery in the most delightful ways.
The one time we got to go to a taping of the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon was when Emma Stone was a guest. So we got to be there when they did like a lip sync off, and we were in the audience for that. That was a lot of fun. That's been 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, that's great. Emma Stone's wonderful. I adore her. Yeah, she's great. And she's just wonderful as Cruella. And the costumes are magnificent. Yeah, it is a wickedly fun movie. Definitely. Another one that I'm going to recommend movie wise. Well, Dune is out. I'm not sure if you saw the first part of Villeneuve's Dune.
Yeah.
I have not seen either Dune, so I am.
Oh, there are 3 versions now.
Yeah.
The new one. So I thought it was an old one and a new one. There's 2 old ones.
There's a middle one. There's the David Lynch's one in 1984, which
Okay.
looked really pretty, but was kind of a disaster. Then there was a Sci-Fi Channel version, like a mini series that came out in the mid 90s.
That was pretty good.
Or early 2000 maybe. That one's actually really quite good. And then there's the new Villeneuve Dune, which is gorgeous. I mean, it's sumptuous.
Beautiful.
Do I have to watch the old ones?
No,
I watch the new one.
You could just watch the new one. I think the Sci-Fi Channel version, the miniseries, actually does a really good job explaining the story, but so does this new one. It's only part 1. I think part 2 they're going to start shooting next year. But it is really luscious, to look at. So it's definitely worth it. I'm not sure. Have you read the books?
No.
Okay.
I'm only vaguely familiar with the story. I think one of the tunes that we looked at on the channel was based on it or used some of the source material from it.
Oh, Iron Maiden, to Tame a Land?
Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah, so I remember coming across some of the backstory of Dune when reading in for that, but it's been a few months.
Yeah,
sure.
that's a really good watch. And the another one I think is wonderful. I'm not sure if it might be also on Netflix. My Octopus Teacher. Have you heard of that?
Cool. I have not.
It's a documentary about a diver who meets this octopus, and for the next 9 months or so has this relationship with this octopus. The octopus kind of comes to know him and identify him, and he observes this octopus throughout this octopus's life cycle. And it's kind of beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time, but it's transcendent in a way of teaching you how to relook at life and how smart these animals are, and how the connection between human and animal, that's something that I think we as humans have been too arrogant and conceited to know that we're really close. They're more human than most of us sometimes. It's a lovely movie. My Octopus
It's kind of the golden age of television. There's some wonderful, wonderful stuff that's out there.
Oh yeah, streaming has made, like, I mean, if it wasn't for the plague, I would go and enjoy the movie theater because I like going to see something on the big screen. But now that movies are coming out like in the same day at home, it's like, I think I'd rather just watch it at home and not be worried about people talking, or on their phones.
Because if I spill the nacho cheese on my sweatpants, then I don't have to worry about looking like an idiot in public,
Right.
So,
right.
It's much easier.
Exactly.
to navigate.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy the big screen as well, especially for the movies that have the cinematography that really demands that sort of immersion. Yeah, for sure.
And Dune would be one of those movies. You would want to see it on the biggest screen that you have.
Got
it. It's definitely worth that.
I think another movie that I left out, but of course, big horror fan that I am, and my horror icon is Michael Myers. So Halloween Kills. When I streamed that and I watched, I was like, oh, this is great. Over the top a little bit, a little silly, but what horror movie isn't at times, right? So, but yeah, I think I counted. Michael Myers had 27 kills in that film. He just blows it up. But it's highly entertaining, and like I said, it's another film I wanted to plug in there.
So here's my question to y'all. So when I was a kid, I am not into scary things. I think we talked about that the last
Mhm.
time. When I was like, 7 or 8 years old, I got scared by the Goonies. And now it's one of my favorite movies. But if
Oh, yeah.
I was to try to go back and get into really good horror movies, like which one, where do I start? And
The top
like,
of the tier, The Exorcist.
No, I think no. We got to ease it in, man.
Oh, that's right. Right.
We gotta ease it.
Drug in. All right.
Yeah,
all
we're
right.
not doing a porn here. We're not hitting backdoor immediately. We gotta, just the tip, man. I would start with something atmospheric and kind of creepy and moody to kind of get you in there. I would start with a movie called The Witch. I think The Witch is a slower paced horror movie. You're not gonna have things jumping out at you, but
like I don't mind thrillers. Like I enjoy M. Night Shyamalan movies.
yeah, well, this
like the Village is fascinating to me. I love
Mhm.
that, and The Sixth Sense, is not
Yeah.
really a horror, I would think, but those suspenseful movies I really enjoy.
The
It's-
Witch has that vibe.
Yeah.
It's and I that one is quite good. A movie called The Ritual, which is
Mhm.
another
Netflix.
horror. Netflix that came
How-
out again this year.
How
That's
old is The Witch?
just a couple years old. It
Oh, okay,
stars
so it's relatively new.
Anna Taylor. Was Anna Taylor Young? Anya Taylor Young, the one who was in the Queen's Gambit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was an early film of hers, and it's set, I think, in the 18th century or so, late 18th century, early 19th century. Yeah,
Cool.
probably late in probably yes, 1700s.
She's a witch burner.
No, yeah, and it's a very kind of a movie full of like foreboding, and it's a heavy movie, but it's a gentle enough horror film to get you in. There's not jump
Hmm.
scares, but like
I gotcha.
Chop Top mentioned, I mean, The Exorcist is like the litmus test. I mean, that's the movie that neither of us will watch in the dark alone. Still to this day.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
also.
I got like halfway into the room for Poltergeist, like and just it scarred me. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
I will come back another day.
I think another one that's really atmospheric and a classic, and me and Montag really enjoyed too, the original, The Haunting.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
a fantastic, very atmospheric. Was that in the 60s?
Yeah, I think 63.
63, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
And
always
it's
fascinated
atmospheric
too.
and creepy. Yeah.
I'm always fascinated too by the soundtracks to these suspenseful movies and how they orally keep us in suspense as well. I learned a lot of tricks from just paying attention to what the soundtracks do, even if there's not really music happening.
Right.
Just the sound design that's put into these films. I tend to pay attention to. If I'm getting too scared of what I'm seeing on the screen, I'm just paying attention to what happens with the music. So
yeah.
I'll look these up. Thank you for these.
Oh, you're
suggestions.
welcome. Last one I would recommend would be like The Descent. I think that's a fun horror movie.
Claustrophobic
Yes.
feeling.
Yeah, I watched that with my grandma years ago. She loved that movie. So yeah, and they all have that's a good sampling. Start
Cool.
with.
Well, if you can watch Sondheim, then I can watch The Haunting. So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Are you into action flicks at all?
Sure. Sure.
Did you see Nobody with Bob Odenkirk?
No.
Also on Netflix, I believe.
I want to see that. Yeah.
Oh my God. If you like the John Wick kind of movies,
Yeah.
you're gonna love it.
Cool.
It is just brutal and wonderful.
That's-
Yeah, it was so good. Comedy wise, another series that's on Apple, Ted Lasso. Have you heard of that? You've seen that?
I have seen all of it.
Okay.
And Megan and I are a fan. We've actually watched a couple of the episodes twice.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful television show. Jake and Sudeikis is from Kansas City, where we lived for several years. Yeah, where he went to high school was like 6 miles from where we lived for a while. And Paul Rudd is from Kansas City as well. And it's just a neat thing to see him doing such good work. It's a wonderful show.
It really is. I think the Christmas episode that came out earlier this year, because it was a little off because of the COVID, was one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen.
You and I agree.
Yeah.
We have showed it's funny. We have shown the Christmas episode to people who have not ever seen the show and said, this is the best 38 minutes of Christmas or holiday themed television that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like in any genre, if you want a feel good Christmas show,
yeah,
you don't need any, you don't need to know the characters. You don't need anything. You just hang in and it never fails. It's season 2, episode 4.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's become prerequisite seasonal viewing.
Absolutely.
Right up there with Christmas Story, Love Actually, all these other
Mhm.
films that get just, yeah, and
we've gotten our Christmas vacation, and actually just earlier this afternoon we finished. We were doing some more decorating. We watched Elf,
Yeah.
which is one of our favorites as well.
yeah,
So
they're cute together. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, yeah, Will Ferrell's always funny, or no, Zoe Deschanel.
Yes.
She's just adorable,
Yeah.
in this movie, and the two of them together, there's just this chemistry that's palpable.
There is, speaking of Netflix, there is a little series on Netflix, a documentary series called The Movies That Made Us.
Yes.
And there is an episode of that on Elf, on the making of Elf. And it's a fascinating trip through like 45 or 48 minutes of this little documentary behind the scenes of how they made it. First time screenwriter, like Jon Favreau, who directed it, had only, I think, directed one other movie. Producers that were new to the game, and like they had to really convince the people at the studio to allow Will Ferrell to be the lead in the movie, because at that point, like the only thing they had seen him in was Old School or Night at the Roxbury. And they go through the story of how everything was cast and how it was shot, and it was just one, like the stop motion animation, and then it's like really a father-son or a son finding a father story, but it's based a lot on Rudolph, like the old stop motion animation Rudolph, even down to the colors and the costumes. It's just fascinating to see that stuff, and it's a wonderful little movie.
Oh, it's delightful. The new Christmas movies with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn are really wonderful too. I'm not sure if you've seen those. They're also on Netflix, I believe, or Hulu. Maybe it's Netflix. I forget their name, but Kurt Russell plays Santa Claus, and Goldie Hawn plays Mrs. Claus, and they are just so cute together. You can't stand it because
I haven't seen those yet.
Yeah, they're really delightful. Definitely children's fantasies. I mean, Kurt Russell looks amazing as Santa Claus. I mean, he's one of my favorite actors, and
My
I watched him since he was a kid.
Yeah. My wife and I, a couple days ago on Netflix, we watched a new one called it's A Boy Called Christmas.
Yes.
And it was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lovely movie. So thank goodness for our storytellers who keep us entertained and inspire us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
Since you're on Netflix, have you seen Squid Game?
No, my wife has, and she hasn't told me much other than that it's just really heavy. So
yes, I found that most Korean dramas, there's a pathos and it has a heaviness to them. It leaks over into their horror as well, because this straddles both. It's mostly a drama, very intense, but like the Train Busan, which is a Korean horror film, there is a pathos and a heaviness that deals with the human emotion that is sometimes devoid of most like American horror films. Like you're not going to get that in The Last Halloween Kills, it's just like body count. But this one, there is something, you are made to feel for these characters, and then you care about what happens. So yes, Squid Game, I think would definitely
you recommend it.
I do recommend it, as well as another one, a couple that are on TV and on Hulu. What We Do in the Shadows. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
Okay. It started off as a movie, a documentary about some vampires living together in this house, and they're getting ready to go to this big annual, vampire event. And it's hysterical. And then the series is even funnier. And yes, I hardly recommend you, because each of the characters, vampires, have a really fun personality, and they really have a hard time interacting with the modern world, because they just don't fit in, and they can't. But yes, What We Do in the Shadows is delightful, as is a show that's called Wellington Paranormal. It's a Kiwi. It's a Kiwi series, and it is kind of loosely connected to what we do in the shadows. It's about a police force who investigates paranormal, activities. And it's if you like Peter Jackson and the other kinds of directors and humorists from that area of the world, you will find New Zealand. There's a very distinct kind of humor. It's kind of dry. The delivery is really kind of dry and fast. You have to pay attention to it, which I find to be brilliant, because they don't try to wait to make sure everyone gets it. They're just kind of plowing along. But yeah, Wellington Paranormal is another one I recommend as well. If you can find it, it might be it's on regular TV, and it's also
here's one that I think you guys might actually really enjoy. This is something I think that's under the radar. This was a show that we saw right at the beginning of the pandemic, like March of 2020. It's called Dispatches from Elsewhere. And it's the coolest thing. I actually had to bring it up so I could kind of tell you about it. It's Jason Segel is the guy who is behind it. And it's just one season, and it's based on a real place, a real sort of underground community based in San Francisco, but they shot this in Philadelphia, and it's trippy. It's about finding looking for the good around you, finding the essence in life, and it's shot on the streets of Philadelphia. It's a love letter to the city, and Jason Segel writes and stars in it. Sally Field is in it.
Wow.
Richard Grant is in it, and he's awesome in it. If you can find it, it was released on AMC.
Okay.
Here in America, and it's just one season. It's like 10 episodes, and that's it. But it was a hoot to follow. It really, really was. We enjoyed that one a lot.
Okay, is it Dispatches or Dispatchers from Elsewhere?
Dispatches.
Dispatch. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
I've got it written down.
Great.
Yeah,
In my must-see
it's really
list.
cool.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
I love that.
Another great series, a couple of them that I caught during this year was on Peacock. One of them was Mr. Mercedes, based on a Stephen King story. Mostly it's like 3 seasons now. A lot of drama, a lot of guest stars come in each episode, and it's just wonderful. And then the other one is on HBO Max. It's called The Outsider. That's based on Stephen King's book, his novels, and that's just 1 season. And that I read the book, and it pretty much follows everything. I think there's like 9 or 10 episodes, and then it's done.
cool.
But great acting, just wonderful show. So
Excellent. Did Dr. Sleep come out this year too, or was that last year?
I think it was last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Dr. Sleep. I did.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It wasn't tremendous, but I thought it kept my attention. It was done well.
And Rebecca Ferguson, I mean, beyond being beautiful, I mean, she did a great job as Rose the Hat in film.
Yeah,
So,
she's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Dr. Sleep, Doug?
No.
It's the sequel to The Shining.
Okay.
So we're taking, thank you, Mrs. Torrance. He's all grown up and trying to deal with the trauma of what happened at the Overlook, and then kind of gets pulled in once again.
I think I remember seeing the trailer for that, but I haven't seen it. So
yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna have quite the laundry list. I need to just take a vacation for like a month.
Yeah.
And then we'll get caught up on all of the stories.
Yeah, you'll start doing movie reviews, movie reactions, which is a growing thing, a trending thing now. I've seen.
It is. I actually follow a couple of folks that do that. It's an interesting way to go back. Actually, their editing skills are half the value.
Mm-hmm.
Their personality is, but if you've got a classic movie that you enjoy, that like, hey, I've got 30 minutes while I'm cooking, I'll just watch the highlights while somebody else, you can, it's kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, I remember how that goes now.
Yeah, there are 3 of them or so I watch. And there's one, Dasha from Russia. I like because it's nice seeing most of them are pretty young, like in their 20s or early 30s, so they have watching movies like Saving Private Ryan or Star Wars for the first time, and it's just like getting to seeing that joy. It's like watching reviewers, reactioners like you. It's like hearing you review a piece of music that I've loved for decades and having that kind of appreciation show. That's what makes it enjoyable. Like, oh yeah, I remember feeling that way,
It's the expectation of an experience that you've already had. And it's universal. Like if you cook something for somebody and you have already tasted it and you want to see how they react, it can be applied to many, many different things. And we're fascinated with those things because it connects us.
Yeah.
In our human spirit, like it, the way that I reacted to that is validated because they did the same thing, or hey, they react, how is that different? And it always helps us. We're always comparing, how our brain works compared to somebody else's. And it's really a lot of fun, these communities, and you really feel like you get a chance to know people. I've got people that think of they've like written me and they think of me as a friend. I'm like, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I think of y'all as friends and colleagues and just community members, and it's just one of the good things to come out of access to broadband and video and streaming and the whole nine. It's really been lovely for me to get to grow my own online community for the past year or so.
Yeah. I agree. And to meet new people that way and to have people interacting with your site is kind of awesome. It means they're watching and they care and they're involved and they've invested, which is really quite amazing. It's like, watching, as I knew, like when you first did Pisces Ginger, we were all, everyone's waiting for the moment when you hear Tatiana breaking into the growl, and like, that's like the money shot moment, like, here it is. But your community, though, you've expanded it quite a bit to not just reviews, but you also have like a whole group where you talk food and wine and cooking. How did that evolve?
Oh gosh, we started we did 7 or 8 little vignette videos of just me cooking, and it was during the first part of the pandemic. I was bored out of my mind, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna, if none of the restaurants are open, or and we're gonna cook at home and we're gonna like cut up and have fun, then why don't you just film me and I'll learn how to video edit as we go. And so that was just one of the things that so that was like in March, April, May, June of 2020. And then I didn't start my vlog, The Daily Doug, until like August or September of 2020. And then I didn't even start doing music reviews as a thing until January of this year. So it's really taken off, and it's been really steady for the last 4 or 5 months. But with this month we've had some really great reactions and a lot of people looking at the videos, and so we're growing pretty fast right now, which is just wonderful for us. And we're getting ready for 2022 and trying to just figure out how to keep riding the wave and having a good time.
Yeah, your numbers have exploded, which is, I mean, kudos to you. That's awesome.
Thank you. We hit 100,000 subscribers around the first or second week of August, and we passed 160 just a couple days ago.
Wow,
that's fantastic.
It's chugging. So
because we were talking about that in an episode like before the show, and because we knew we were coming on and we were looking forward to talking with you, and we're like, because we were getting ready to do the Dream Theater album, we were going to talk about it, and we're like, Doug interviewed Jordan Rudess. How the hell does that happen? And I said, probably because he's got 140,000 subscribers.
You actually want to know the story?
I do. Yes.
So here's how the Jordan Rudess thing came about. So, I think I had posted something having to do. Oh, it was it was when I did the Metropolis, the entire Scenes from a Memory album. And that was in the early part of August. And that ended up getting put on some Dream Theater social media. And somebody had tagged Jordan to make sure he had seen it. And I got a message from, now I can't remember her name, but a lady that helps Jordan with his social media. and she reached out to me and said, this is great. Thank you for doing this. Jordan has seen it. If you ever want to talk about, with him about what he does and like some of his own solo music, let us know. And so I was like, great, when the time's right, we'll fit it in. And then I had one of our patrons remind me, like, hey, weren't you going to do something with Jordan? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I just wrote him on Facebook. I just sent him a message, and literally within like 20 minutes later, he says, yeah, cool. And then so I asked like when a day was, and so he picked the day. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the day that the album is dropping. He says, yeah, it's going to be our media day that day. I have that day blocked out for media, so you're in the 3 o'clock slot. I'm like, thank you. I'll see you then.
Awesome.
And literally the conversation was, I was planning on just starting it and then saying, okay, now we start, and I can kind of slice in there. But it was just off and rolling from as soon as we logged on. So what you see, I think I only clipped like 2 or 3 seconds of just us making the connection, and then off it went on the Zoom, and it was a fun conversation. And he's one of the world's best keyboard players. In any genre at any time. And it was,
which you hear on Scenes from a Memory. You hear that especially in the Dance of Eternity, you hear his range.
The thing that I really like about his playing is that he can play virtuosically whenever he feels like it, but when he's not playing virtuosically, he plays with so much rhythmic integrity and feeling and phrasing that he's almost a chameleon. Like he can play, if you want him to play keyboards in a country band, he could do that for you and make it sound great, but if you're in a blues band, he can do that as well. If you're in the world's leading, symphonic metal, or prog metal band, sky's the limit. And it was just a lot of fun talking. And of course, when he started showing me some of his toys, the iPad toys, and I'm like, the fact that a guy's playing on like the new Dream Theater album on an iPad app, and that's the instrument that's being used there as a solo instrument. I'm like,
wow.
Y'all are doing something I'm not, but we're sure appreciative.
One of his other projects, Doug, is very cool and instrumental 4 pieces Liquid Tension Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
John Petrucci and Portnoy, and then of course Jordan's in there, and Tony Franklin.
I've listened.
Amazing.
So when LTE3 came out, I took a look at the Rhapsody in Blue version that they did, and that's based on the older classic version, and was just blown away by it. I haven't listened to much other of LTE, but that reminds me I need to get back to some of their stuff too. Just wonderful.
Yeah.
The great thing is we're not running out of repertoire, are we?
No.
Right.
There's plenty to look at.
Absolutely.
It's almost it is like a new golden age of entertainment in a way that with the television especially, when I realize I look at my DVD collection or stuff or the stuff I have saved, on my computer or whatnot, it's like I'm never gonna watch it all. You have to start realizing you can't see it all, so you have to start becoming more selective. But the fact that we have so much choice is astonishing to me. I mean, there is just so much content out there.
It almost makes it hard. Right.
Yeah.
You get there, okay, we've had dinner, we've sat down, it's 8:30, we've got a couple hours. What are we going to watch tonight? And then 45 minutes later, you're arguing over which app on the television which streaming service you're going to filter your choices through.
Mm-hmm.
It's overwhelming at times.
Yeah, you get this paralysis where you want to make sure it's the right thing to watch.
It's like we almost watch Apple TV for a month, and then we watch HBO for a month, and then we watch that one for a month, so that we can just, because if it's all on the table, like I don't know which food to grab first.
Right.
Well, it's like one of my big problems, and Montag always razzes me about it, is the collector's curse, because I have so many CDs that, and I amaze me. I look at them, I'm never going to get through all this in my life. Why do I keep but it's a true curse. It exists. So collector's curse is real.
I
But
keep asking,
it's
why are you
just
doing this,
something
man? Trade all
I
that
just-
crappy stuff in on a car, a new computer.
Yeah.
I just like the. I mean, I love the physical content, the actual CD. I love the artwork. I love the liner notes, the lyrics. I just it even sounds better to me than that's just me in particular.
I miss
than
that.
MP3.
I miss that. I don't think I've bought a recording that's actually on something physical in a decade.
Yes.
You
I still
know,
remember the last CD I bought. It was King Diamond, the Puppet Master, 2008, I think, or
Yeah.
5 or something. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it still has that smell. Like albums, when you would buy an album, the vinyl has a smell. The CD booklets and cassette booklets
Yeah. That
always
brand
kind of
new-
smelled sweet. There was a sweetness to the ink, and like almost like opening a bag of Pez or something. Like, how do they make it smell? You know, so sweet.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you remember the last physical media you bought, Doug?
well, I mean, I've got some like it was actually probably a Christmas CD from the school where I taught to help out our students. That's probably the last one I actually bought. But from like a commercial standpoint, like a pop rock thing, I don't even know. It was probably like before my doctorate, and and that's been 15 years. You know, we have a great digital library, but it's funny, we've used less and less space on our bookshelves. Our bookshelves are filled with art instead of a whole bunch of and books instead of a whole bunch of CDs anymore. Like over the years, we've just ripped them into our library, and as we move from one place to another, we kind of the CDs just kind of get broken or unusable, and it kind of the digital kind of takes over. So
Yeah.
but I do miss holding the artwork and like in reading through the booklet and just kind of living with it as a full piece. I do miss that.
When I went to CDs, here's the old man in me. It was the CDs seemed to become smaller, so artwork seemed to become more minimal in some ways, depending on the band. But like when you had an album, you get that out, you get that nice 11 or 12 by 12 piece of artwork. Sometimes you would like hang it like a poster, and I had albums like that. Or you get those crazy liner notes, the big liner notes, or you get booklets, or in the case of Kiss Alive 2, you got tattoos. You just don't get that kind of stuff in a CD. You might get booklets, but you're not.
Remember when CDs like first came out? Didn't they like at the Tower Records or whatever? Like the CD is like this big, but they were in a box, like
Huge
this
box,
big.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Waste the cardboard so much.
Yeah, and then they realized, hey, we don't have to put that in that box. Yes, that was the first, I think, CD that I was there with Dreadpool, and I think the first CD he might have bought was Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. That might have been the first one I picked up as well. Like when I first got my CD player, I went to the local record exchange, and they had a bunch of used CDs. So I'm like getting Iron Maiden for like $4. I'm like, yeah, this is the way to do it,
There you go.
So yeah.
I do remember the first actual CD that I ever bought. It was just a trick. It was just a trick of the timing, because my family happened to get a new vehicle. It was a Pontiac Bonneville, and the Bonneville had a CD player in it, but there wasn't a CD player in the house. And so I worked at the mall, and I went and got Eric Clapton Unplugged on CD, and then played it on the way home. That was the first CD that I bought. That was like 92, 93, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Very nice.
And when you hear that clarity, like on a decent set of speakers, it's amazing, kind of breathtaking. Not to have the
It's a great
scratches of the
album.
albums. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
now
now that we're talking about music, I guess we could go into what's my favorite new music everybody's got to listen to. This past year.
As you've been listening to so much music this
Right.
year, Doug. I mean, I know there has to be some standouts and surprises. That was the one thing I really wanted to get from you, is like, now that you've been doing this for so long, and you're coming back to certain bands, and I can tell you're appreciating their music. and I know you're becoming fans of some of these bands, but there has to be a few standouts for you, like oh my, I never
My
expected
favorites
this.
are not the favorites of my audience, at least by view count. I'm
Okay.
trying to get I'm trying to get to.
I like that. I love that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but like I recently did something on Jackson Brown, and not many people watched it, but I really did because it was important to me. There was like I really like this band called Lake Street Dive, and I did like just a play along episode with them that not many people watch, but that's perfectly fine. But let's see. I had no idea that Frank Zappa was as good as he is before this year. I went into the first time doing Frank, a bunch of people saying, yeah, you need to do Zappa. And of course, like for me, Zappa was notorious. Oh, that's that eccentric guy who was, and I never even listened to his music. So I had no basis except ignorance to come at. And the first thing I looked at was Inca Roads. And I was like, holy crap. Especially because I read in on it, and like they're not just like improvising in a very good jam band. He's making these compositions and expecting his musicians to play all this stuff down to the letter, like they're a studio band, like a really fantastic jazz band. And I'm the more that I've uncovered of him, his brain fascinates me because he's not writing experimental music. He's not he's using traditional, for the most part, traditional instruments in traditional ways. He's not asking for like, a violin player to play on the back of the neck or to hit the thing, or anything else. But the sounds are so fresh and so just inspired to be something new from what we're used to hearing. I've really enjoyed him. A couple of bands that have become like that I listen to for pleasure now that I found on the channel. The first one that comes to mind is Big Big Train. They are a prog band from Britain, and I've absolutely loved their sound. And they recently had a pretty major blow to them. Their lead singer was killed in an accident at like at the beginning of this month, or like it's right after right after Thanksgiving, like late November. And I think the latest is like they're canceling some tour stuff coming up to try to figure out what's going on. But Nick DiVirgilio from originally from Spock's Beard is their drummer, and he's a good singer as well. And they've got like 8 or 9 piece band, and it's just up my alley.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that stuff.
Spock's Beard's a really great band.
I didn't know Marillion before this year. I really have liked them. Who else? Just kind of going through here. Just getting to know. Like I knew the 1980s Genesis. I didn't know the 1970s Genesis. That's been fun to get back.
It's a different animal, isn't it?
Yeah,
with Peter Gabriel at the helm.
Yeah. And quite frankly, to take some of my newer things, I thought that I knew Pink Floyd, and holy crap, I did not. I had the couple of the songs that like everybody knows, but I've gotten into some of their albums, and the songs that I have heard from them before are put more in context, and I just really jive with them and their point of view and their music. It's really cool.
Like going back to Animals and Metal and those earlier records. Yeah, because it's sonically so different. But you hear that, pre Dark Side of the Moon, you hear that in Animals. You hear that in Metal, the beginnings of all those things. And then they have some really odd stuff. Excuse me, like Adam Hart Mother and Saucer Full of Secrets. It's just like it's hard.
So we did some Adam Hart Mother on the channel, and I was like, this is like an experimental psychedelic band. This is not a mainstream rock and roll ensemble. At least not by that sound.
Right.
So it's just been a really great continuing education for me this year, just to kind of set this course of intentional listening and sharing it. And the hard part is you get to the to every week and have to figure out, of all of those songs, which ones get included this week. And I've got a whole lot of people that are asking me to react to stuff, which is heartwarming. It really is. People are trusting me with songs that are important to them, and they want to know what I think. So I absolutely love it. A lot of times people are like, I know what. Everybody sends their most obscure choice. It's like, dude, there's this band from the 1980s in Croatia that nobody's heard of that you have to put on your channel. And I'm like, I don't know if I can at this point. But so I'm trying to find a vehicle for some of those more like golden goose eggs type tracks, and how to put them, because I think people would gravitate to them pretty well. It's hard to get them in the channel when the channel's growing, and I've got more like larger, like tent pole pieces of these genres to get to. Maybe in the future we'll strike out and kind of go on the wider path a bit.
Or have like a separate, like you're going to have this as a designated, like one reaction a month is going to be this kind of off the beaten path kind of thing, like where you do those experimental.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do now that we have so many episodes, we're closing in on close to 300 episodes now.
It's crazy good.
And now that we have so many, we're starting to we have to give these folks a little bit easier time to navigate the back catalog, because a lot of these videos are evergreens. It really doesn't matter when they were done. People they tell me they go back and listen to my Close to the Edge reaction, which I did, I think, in May. People have said, I've listened to that 5 or 6 or more times. And we're trying to find these playlists where we can sort of, you like Metal Mondays, here's all the Metal Mondays. If you like the Masterpiece Fridays, here's all of those. And we're trying Weird Wednesdays is something new, and my little brother, the DJ Jan series, so we've got different ways to try to organize a lot of what we're up to. And I'm hoping to get into jazz and soundtracks and more things. So sky's the limit. There's a lot of music to get through. So
yeah. And I'm going to be one of those people who suggest something. I know I gave suggestions before. Some work out.
I got my computer up.
Okay. When we interviewed Matt Thompson a while ago, he's the drummer for King Diamond. Matt Thompson has he does all kinds of other music. Another one of his projects is a band called Shaolin Death Squad. And they are a progressive metal band with beautiful melodic harmonies that you would see in King's X and these other bands from Texas. Their one album I want to suggest is called. I can't
believe I spelled that right when I
SAH. Yeah, I suggest Intelligent Design. You can go to YouTube and you can listen to the whole album there. The first song is a terrible way to use a sword, which if you like that song, you're gonna love the rest of it.
All right.
Yeah, and there's a video of him doing a play along on another channel, but I would suggest listening to the album version first.
Cool.
And they would dress up in it's based on the Shaolin Death Squad, the movie, so they're all wearing their Shaolin kind of costumes on stage. But it is kind of this great combination of jazz, and the harmonies are so beautiful. They might just make you weep in a way. I could not listen to that album enough. I must have listened to that album 200 times after discovering it. Oh my God, this is my new favorite band. So yeah.
Non sequitur. Do you like the movie High Fidelity?
Yes, I do. So I have not seen it for a long time.
When you
but
said
yes.
Shaolin Death Squad, I immediately thought Sonic Death Monkey.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Jack Black.
But let me know what you think of that. If you want to send me an email sometime, you don't have to do a review. I think it would be really good to review because it will catch you off guard. It will be all these time changes, all these different things are putting it together.
Oh boy.
I know it's a beautiful Frankenstein monster. Yeah, it is. It is all kinds of gorgeous.
All
And
right.
every track on the album brings something to it that is just like surprising and like, oh my God, it's not just progressive groove, there are sensibilities in here that there are times where it reminds me a little bit of Pink Floyd, a little bit of there's a couple other bands that I get this, but it's also completely new. It's like it's jazz, it's just beautiful jazz. That's maybe the best way to describe it. But anyway,
Cool.
there's my offering for you. I
Thank
hope
you.
that you take a chance on them.
I will.
Yeah.
Top, you got anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was a wonderful year, I thought, for releases, and of course I'm mostly metal and all that. Not like hard rock, metal, classic rock. That's kind of my thing. But I thought the new Dead Daisies album with Glenn Hughes on vocals is fantastic. That guy still wails like he did with Deep Purple or even Trapeze back in the days. He's probably my second favorite vocalist of all time. So I also like the new Black Label Society, Doom Crew Inc. with Zakk Wylde on guitar. It's probably maybe their best album they've released. And they're up to number 11 or number 12, I think. Also like the new Maiden, Senjutsu. I thought there was some refreshing things in there. Steer from the path a little bit more. And
it's pretty consistent.
Hell on Earth, that last song, I love that song.
Yeah, we got that one on the channel. It's been a while since I did some Maiden. I'm actually got some Maiden coming up before the end of the year.
Oh, nice.
On the channel. So I need to pick your brains on which one we actually should do.
Yeah. Well, you want to pick our brains, or you want to do it after the show?
Okay, we can do that. Hang on a second. Let me pull up. I gotta figure out how many. So I've got a playlist for my Iron Maiden songs, because I've done the Parchment, Hell on Earth, Stratego. I've done the Writing on the Wall, Clairvoyant, Sign of the Cross, Infinite Dreams, Run to the Hills, The Longest Day, Passchendaele, The Prophecy, Dance of Death, Phantom of the Opera, Blood Brothers, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Alexander the Great, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Good Lord.
You've done quite a bit.
Empire of the Clouds, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, and the very first one was Fear of the Dark. So I haven't done one in a while because I think I got through a lot of the biggies. So the question is like I wanted to go back at the end of the year. I think the Monday after Christmas, I'm gonna do a Maiden Monday and like a Metallica Monday, like double header.
Yeah.
Like to think, because the fans of those two bands specifically have made our Metal Mondays like one of our best like series on the channel in terms of views and how many people are responding to it. So I want to come back to those two bands before the end of the year. The question is like something off the new album, something classic, what do you guys think?
I would go with,
Chop.
I was gonna say Power Slave, the title track off that album. That'd be an interesting one. I would also go with maybe the title track off Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. That's pretty interesting.
He did Seventh Son.
Moonchild. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to suggest Moonchild.
Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
Yes, Moonchild is the opening track on that album, which I think is a ripper. And yeah, Power Slave is really great. I think it sounds better on the Live After Death version, but you don't typically do live versions though too much.
If I've got a good live version, I actually usually prefer it. But what tends to happen, I like live versions, but those are a little. What ends up happening is I get not only an audio copyright claim, but I get a visual copyright claim as well, and that's where I end up getting blocked. So it's difficult sometimes. I do have some of the Iron Maiden stuff that's live. That's
Live After Death. I would go with the version from Live After Death, if you can.
For Power Slave.
For Power Slave. For Power Slave. Moonchild came after that era, but Moonchild you want to do from the album, and if you can get the Live After Death version of Power Slave, I would do that. And I'm going to go way back in the early catalog when Paul Di'Anno was singing for them, and I'm going to suggest Prodigal Son, which I think is a really beautiful song. It was one of the first songs I learned how to play on guitar, actually, when I was in college. I had an Iron Maiden songbook, and I always have liked that song. Now, the Maiden stuff that from those first two albums is way different than what that you hear on Number the Beast. They were really coming into their own. So it's a
Okay.
lot more punky. Those first couple albums, you'll hear a lot of punk sounds. Because did you do Phantom of the Opera, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
that era.
Okay.
But Prodigal
Yeah,
Son is
early.
actually pretty late. It's a pretty mild, pretty mellow song.
Okay.
So yeah, I would recommend those. Moonchild, Power Slave, yeah, like Chop Top said, and then Prodigal Son, which
Gotcha.
I think that's really good. They're not going to be as complex. Power Slave is pretty good. Moonchild you may not think is complex.
I've kind of gotten over myself with that.
Okay.
You know, there's, as much as I'd like to think that that I have a relatively open mind, and but there is a bit of, like, as you learn more about music, there tends to get a little bit of music snobbery, like, I know that and you don't, you know. But the problem is, you get to the point where you start thinking of music having value by how complex it is. And I think it's a false, it's a wrong way to approach it. It is art. There is some music that is designed to be complex for the sake of being complex, or virtuosic for the sake of being virtuosic, because they're showpieces. That's what they're designed to do. That's true in any genre, whether it be bluegrass or metal or classical or jazz or what have you. I mean, there's always those showpieces where some unbelievably talented performer gets up on stage and says, "Watch this shit, y'all," and they just, you know, it's unbelievable. But it's these bands that like, I got over myself, you know, because the musical language that that folks use to communicate to other people is the language that they use. And over my time as a professor of composition specifically, I had to learn how to react to the sounds that students or people were bringing to me with as little judgment as possible, because I have to react to what they're giving me, because they're being vulnerable and sharing that with me and asking me, "Hey, what do you think? How can I make this better?" And if I react to something with you know, then just a facial cue can be detrimental, especially if it's a student professor type situation. So I am accustomed to just proactively trying to approach any new sound or any new song that I hear on the level, and just call it out as I see it, and try to start figuring out, especially with how the lyrics go, like they're combining these sounds with these lyrics. And if I know that the chords and the melodies go this way to that way to that way, and how they're moving, then I can try to start drawing parallels into how they're expressing things musically. And just, you know, that's my brain. I'm an analytical, you know, observer. I have been all my life, and I've really come to admire Iron Maiden. I've gotten through enough of their main songs that, you know, after about the fifth or sixth one, I was like, sounds the same. You know, I think I've got them pegged. And then I was like, do I really need to keep doing them? But after you know, the fans just you know, wanted me to keep going, and I really started to get into realizing that this band is one of the best selling and best touring bands of all time for a reason. They put the work in. The music is wonderful. It's consistent. They're not talking about sex, drug, and rock and roll. They're talking about real stuff. They're expressing their view of the world around them through the musical sounds that are most impactful to them. And there's a whole lot of people that vibe with it. And it's important to take notice. That's how I approach it now. So the fact that, you know, if it uses 3 chords, that's fine. Pink Floyd used 3 chords.
Sure.
I mean, I used, we did the rest of Wish You Were Here on Friday, a little bit ago. And those 3 songs in a row in the middle part of that album are all in E minor. they have 3 songs back to back on the same album. And I thought as I was listening to Wish You Were Here, I'm like, if this was Iron Maiden, I'd be saying something. Why don't I say something here? Like, oh, by the way, all three songs are in E minor. It's a guitar key. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works for them,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that, Doug, that I think with all of us, it's easy to get into a rut of what we like and what we don't. And that's one thing that this show has forced me to do, is listen to and expand my musical horizons. Not like bands like, oh, I don't want to listen to that, as much as you get into a rut. Like, I'm not looking for new music. I have to be exposed with our savant Chop Top, who buys everything in the world and says, hey guys, you got to listen to this. Or Wildcard Vic, who is in a thrash metal band and has a huge CD collection too. And he's like, hey guys, you got to listen to this. And when I do, I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. It's kind of like you, but without a public forum. I'm like always finding new bands, which is amazing. And I really appreciate that how you look at music, and like when you're listening to Opeth, bands like that, which I kind of accidentally discovered. It's like you get this, you're amazed at what they can do, and you're very vocal about that. And that, speaking of Opeth, I'm going to give you a deep track that I don't think anyone has ever discussed, and I want to see if you would just, as a potential for you. It's not going to be a big song. It's called River. Have you heard of that?
It's on the list.
Is it on the list? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
My brother's been asking for it, and a few other people have as well.
Yes.
It's on the thing about Michael that struck me is he's such a naturally gifted composer. He's not been formally trained, and so some of the ways that he goes from sound to sound is unconventional, but that's what makes it so unique. And like I've in one of the songs of theirs, I can't remember which one, I was like, those 3 chords should never be in the same phrase. How did they do that? But I've really gotten to like Opeth. They're one of the only bands of all of these bands that I have actually experienced live.
Oh, you got to see them.
I got to see them at
nice.
Radio City Music Hall with my brother.
Cool.
It was in early October of 2016. And it was one of those things where he just happened to be in town, and he's like, hey, we're going to Opeth tonight.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, fine. Megan's
That was
like,
the
go
Sorceress?
ahead.
Was
Go
that the
ahead.
Sorceress tour?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I could barely keep up. The problem for me was, like, I already have a thing about the intensity of the double kick sometimes. Yes. Where we were, like, we thought we had great seats, and we had shitty seats because and there's not too many shitty seats at Radio City, but we were like 8 rows back on the first balcony, like in the center, and we thought, like 8 rows back in the first balcony is going to normally be a really great seat, but it was the back row of the first balcony, and the overhang was right over you. So you were in the only spot in the entire huge hall where there was a ceiling, and that big frequency bass just attacked us.
Sure.
And like the first 3 songs, I was like, holy crap.
Right.
All I could hear was the bass. And so we moved up higher, and it was a much better experience.
Good thing you weren't at a Slayer concert.
It was it was amazing how different it sounded. It was just those low frequencies got trapped in that one little part of that big hall. Radio City, if you've ever been in New York, those streets there's not very much space in between them. Like 46th Street, 47th Street, those blocks are relatively short. That hall, Radio City, is one of the only ones in Midtown where the hall is literally the width of an entire city block. It's a huge hall. Wow. Like the stage doors on either side are like go to the street, so it barely fits in New York. And so it's a huge place, and that one little spot is the only spot. We just happened to be there. But after we moved, I thoroughly enjoyed that concert. So the River, I think, will be one of the next Opeth ones I get to in the new year.
Excellent. I look forward to that. Yeah, because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to say anything. So I'll just leave it to you. I'm looking forward to that. Right. But it is refreshing. And you're probably going to be surprised a little bit
All right. I love
So
it.
yeah, but that's awesome. Uh,
When you're listening
wow.
to new music every day is Christmas. Really, it's like
Yeah.
opening something new. There's always
Yeah.
room for more. Don't feel like like if I listen to if I like this, then that's going to miss or like displace this somehow, and I already like this. But there's always room for more. Always.
I heartily agree. If I had not done the research into Matt Thompson, because he's done other, his other projects, I would never have came across Shaolin Death Squad. And I love it. I mean, other bands I've liked had new albums out this year, like Ginger had a new album come out. I just had them written down. Was it Arch Enemy had a new album, which was, I think, brutal. I mean, it was super heavy,
Yeah, I've really been getting into I can't believe it took me this long to really pay attention. Listen, Mastodon. I think they got a very interesting sound. There's something going. There's a little bit of progressive going on there, and then you got direct metal, and it's almost like they throw other influences in there. It's very interesting. I really like the new album Hushed and Grim, and Tear Drinker is a really cool song. Great melody in that.
Didn't we see them, Chop? We went to was it at the World Series of Metal? I think they were playing, like, I just caught like the last song or two of their set, or no, maybe I was going to see someone else, but I remember hearing just one or two songs, and it was just
maybe, but
can't
I
remember who was
never really got into. I never really. Well, I could have. They've got quite a discography now, but I just got that Hushed and Grim after I heard a Tear Drink, and I like it's a double CD set, and it's really interesting. And yeah, they just got an interesting sound, and like I said, there's some progression stuff going in there, almost like Opeth on a different level, and they're out of Georgia and stuff. But I really dig them. Pretty cool.
We got Mastodon. I've done one of their pieces on the channel. I did Oblivion by them. So I really liked it too.
Yeah, I seen that one, Doug. Yeah, I seen that episode. So
we'll see if we can get some more Mastodon.
Yeah, I think they're very interesting. It's kind of refreshing because you get like
it's another M band. I love M bands that are metal because it fits on Mondays. We can have Maiden Mondays, Metallica Mondays, and Mastodon Mondays.
Heck yeah, Triple M. All right.
Yeah, alliteration is my friend.
Yeah, it's just it's refreshing, And sometimes, like we said, we get caught in a rut and we're used to it. Oh, okay, it's the same thing. We're going to listen to it, and it's like then you just take a chance and you're like, oh, okay, I'm cool with this. Oh, that's what happened with Mastodon with me. So
it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's wonderful. And sometimes initial reactions kind of change over time. You got to give it a taste and come back to it, because 6 months from 6 months, we're different listeners than we were at one time.
For sure.
And so I love that. And and it's just so fun watching you, because you do bands that I've not really listened to Mastodon, although hearing them live, it was just not a band that was on my radar. The same thing with Arch Enemy. I've heard a couple of their songs, but it's not a band I go to. But when you do a review and I hear a new song or a new band, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to give this band a try because of that. So I really appreciate watching music reviews. Usually I seek out songs I know, when you Queensryche or those other bands, like, okay, but I think it's refreshing to hear new music, like you said, and it challenges me to push my own boundaries out of my own comfort zone, which is always good.
I'm also starting to include music that I already know as like a play along instead of an actual like reaction. I've heard Silent Lucidity dozens of times, but we included it on the channel, and it was a fun one to include, even if it wasn't a first reaction. And nobody complained. So it's just a slightly different way of doing that. So I like that because I haven't been completely under a rock, so I wouldn't want a really great song to be excluded from my channel just because I happen to have heard it before. So we're just kind of following the desires of the community and learning as we go.
And I think you did Take Hold of the Flame too, the live version. You did the live version of that, right?
Of Silent Lucidity.
Queensryche, Take Hold of the Flame.
I don't.
Have you done that one? From the 1986 live in Tokyo? That's
I don't think I did.
I know, Chop, I can see your face.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So I've only done 3 Queensryche songs: "Walk in the Shadows," "Sweet Sister Mary," and "Silent Lucidity." Are the only 3 that I've done.
You didn't do Eyes of
Yeah.
a Stranger? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
There's definitely more there, and I know
Yeah.
I think those are on the list is like this
Oh,
huge behemoth.
of course,
You
it's
know.
Queensryche. I mean, they're hugely popular.
Yeah, we've had
right.
a lot of people on our Patreon. Actually, they were in the running to get a full listen. We have a series called the Extended Play Lounge, where we do like full album listens over on my Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
and those are normally done by popular poll within the community. And Operation Mindcrime has been in the running a couple times. It hasn't quite won out yet.
Yeah, it's a seminal album. I mean, it is a masterpiece, I think, of not just metal. Definitely, when we were doing our Queensryche bottoms up and some of our best albums of the 80s, that album consistently among all of us. It was just because it's such a good record. Yeah, but yeah, if you do the Take Hold of the Flame, find the live version from 1986, live in Tokyo.
All right.
You'll hear the full power of Jeff Tate, his voice, at its full potency. And oh my God, it will give you chills, Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, well, what are your plans for I mean, I know your channel's exploding, which is fantastic, but do you have any other like plans for this new year, the things that you want to accomplish, things that are just for you?
I do want to get back to composing. I haven't done much this year. We've been focusing on growing this as almost a new business for us. And so I'm hoping to continue cultivating this business and be able to jump into doing the reactions, or they're almost like mini music lessons built into the reaction themselves. Which is natural because I'm a music teacher by trade. So that's kind of the point of view where I come from. But a lot of people have been asking for some curriculum, like just, hey, if I want to get to know the basics, I don't understand a lot what you're talking about. Can you just can we be in your classroom? I'm like, we can do that, but I have to like create the content and create the curriculum and build that a little bit more than just reacting in real time and filming it. So I'm hoping to build some of that. And, by the middle of the year, we're hoping to be at a level where we can be a little more autonomous too. We're looking at, for the first time, thinking like, hey, where in the world do we want to live? Because as long as we've got a good wired connection and access to our computer, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So we're, our lease is up in July, so I'm not sure where we'll end up. But so we're currently sort of just, we've been married, 20 years, and we've always had to live where we found gigs, and so now it's a little more opening up, and I'm excited to maybe get to travel a little bit more, and hopefully the pandemic ebbs and we can get out and experience the wide world a little bit more. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I also am hoping to write some people have been asking me to try writing an epic prog song, because we have a lot of people over on my Patreon that also play instruments. They're like, hey, if you need some session musicians, just let us know.
That's awesome.
I'm thinking about it. I just got to find a point of view and find a hook for what I want to say, and then maybe that could be a fun new project. I've never tried writing for an ensemble like that, other than just kicking song ideas around in my college band, and that's been 20 something years. So
cool.
College bands are great. What kind of music did you play in your
college?
Oh,
we just played rock covers. The classic, Mellencamp, whatever, honestly, whatever the guitar player could play.
Sure.
Honestly.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I took a guitar class, and because I've been a drummer played drums since when I was 10, and then I took a guitar class when I was 20, and then started playing, and then like immediately started like getting a band together. So, like whatever 7 chords I could play, like, oh, I could do these bar chords. So no, I totally get it, man. But there's nothing that's like a fun time, especially if when people come out and see you, in the college, like, wow, we're getting paid to play. Okay.
Yeah, but mostly for our little band, I was in one band that did pretty well, but I was in this other band where if we got paid by like free beer from the bartender at the end of the night, then we were doing okay.
Yeah.
Because there were like 10 people at the Saddle Creek
Yes.
bar in Omaha.
Yeah, you're not expecting it. Yeah, we got paid one time in free beer and pizza.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's cool. I mean, I'll take
That'll
that.
work.
I mean, yeah, so that's awesome. That's good, man. Good for you. Well, this has been a great time, Doug.
I've enjoyed the conversation, y'all.
Yeah, I think a nice year interview, and I like with you, I sincerely hope that this new year is better than this one has been the year before, and that's something we can all hope for. And again, please, anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. As you know, you're family now. So
Yeah,
appreciate
Heavy
it.
Metal Horror family. Yes,
that's right. That's right.
I have my homework, so maybe I'll do a movie review to The Witch or whatever, or The Haunting, or I've got it written down on my pad here. So.
Cool, man.
Yeah, would love to start seeing movie reviews or reactions. And if nothing else, just let us know what you think. I think you'll be pleasantly enjoyed. And we will have more movies for you to watch if you ever run out. So
you got it. That sounds fun.
All right. Yeah. Great. Excellent. Well, this has been, hey, I should probably do the whole commercial. Hey, you can find Heavy Metal Horror at unsaneradio.com. You can listen to full episodes or download them to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. Same thing on Instagram. You could look at Montag Lewis on Instagram. On YouTube, our brand new channel. If you're watching, that's where you are. It's Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. And you can also email us at heavymetalhorror@yahoo.com. I think that's all of it. I think that's most of it. So this has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Chop Top.
And the Daily Doug.
And you've been watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.